December 1965, Boeing's boardroom. The company is facing bankruptcy. Their military contracts are drying up. Their competitor is building a supersonic jet that will make everything else obsolete. And their biggest customer has just given them an impossible demand: build an airliner twice the size of anything ever made, in half the time, or we'll take our business elsewhere. CEO Bill Allen looks at the blueprints for what would become the 747. The development cost, $2 billion, $18 billion today. The factory needed would be the largest building on Earth. He turns to his engineers and asks one question: can we build it without bankrupting the company? The answer would create the most recognizable aircraft in history and define global travel for 50 years. This is the story of Boeing's $5 billion gamble. Historical positioning: in our last chapter, we saw how the jet age began, with elegant but small aircraft like the 707. Today, we witness aviation's most audacious leap, from carrying hundreds to carrying the world. This is the story of the Boeing 747, not just an airplane, but a physical manifestation of human ambition that reshaped our planet's economy, culture, and connections. The perfect storm of three converging forces made the 747 inevitable. First, airports were choking. By the mid-1960s, major hubs like New York's JFK and London Heathrow were at capacity. Planes stacked up for hours. The solution wasn't more flights, it was bigger planes. Second, Juan Trippe. The visionary CEO of Pan American World Airways saw mass tourism as aviation's future. He wanted to slash ticket prices by 30%, and his math was simple: double the seats, cut the cost per seat. In 1965, he called Boeing's president with an ultimatum: build me a 400-seat plane, or I'll ask Douglas or Lockheed. Third, the supersonic threat. Everyone believed the future was speed. The Anglo-French Concorde, an American SST program, promised New York to London in 3 hours. Boeing's own engineers were split. Should they build a super-fast plane or a super big one? The 747 was conceived as a stopgap, a giant cargo plane that would carry freight. Once passengers abandoned it for supersonic travel, they were designing what they thought would be the world's most expensive cargo carrier. Joe Sutter and the Incredibles Boeing assigned the project to Joe Sutter, a quiet engineer who'd worked on every Boeing jet since the 707. His team started with just 7 engineers. They'd grow to 4,500, becoming known as the Incredibles, not for superpowers, but because their task seemed impossible. The challenges were unprecedented. First, how do you design a plane with a 195-foot wingspan that won't break apart in turbulence? Sutter's solution was a fail-safe structure with redundant load paths. If one structural element failed, others would take the load. They used new aluminum alloys and pioneered computer modeling for stress analysis. Second, the existing jet engines produced 18,000 pounds of thrust. The 747 needed 45,000. Pratt & Whitney developed the JT9 Dia, the first high-bypass turbofan. Its massive front fan moved air around the engine core, creating more thrust with less fuel. But during testing, engine casings warped into oval shapes. The problem nearly killed the program. Third, the iconic Hump early designs had a full double-decker, but emergency evacuation tests proved 400 people couldn't escape in 90 seconds. Sutter's solution: a wide single deck with a partial upper deck for cockpit and lounge. During a design review, a Pan Am executive asked, "What if we put first-class passengers up there?" The flying penthouse was born. Building the building, Boeing faced an absurd problem. They needed to build the world's largest building just to house their construction. They chose a site in Everett, Washington, 800 acres of forest. The factory would be so large it developed its own weather. Workers reported clouds forming near the 90-foot ceiling on humid days. Rain sometimes fell inside. The construction was breakneck. As bulldozers cleared land in 1966, engineers were still designing the roof. The factory cost $200 million, $1.8 billion today, financed by debt. Boeing mortgaged everything. Interest payments were $120,000 per day, every single day. Inside, Boeing invented new manufacturing techniques. They built the first full-scale mock-up out of woodworkers, called it the Incredible Wonderwood. Assembly positions were elevated 3 stories high. Special rail cars transported wings from fabrication plants. The logistics were like building a skyscraper on its side. The pressure manifested everywhere. One engineer developed an eye twitch that lasted months. Another lost 30 pounds from stress. Joe Sutter later wrote, "We knew if we failed, Boeing would fail with us." The last person out would turn off the lights in Seattle. The rollout and flight test nightmare. September 30th, 1968. The first 747 prototype, City of Everett, rolled out before 26 airline executives and 100 reporters. The scale was incomprehensible. The tail stood as tall as a 6-story building. The cabin was wider than the Wright brothers' first flight. Reporters called it the whale, but the celebration was premature. The aircraft was 20,000 pounds overweight. Engines were failing regularly. Wiring problems caused mysterious electrical fires. Boeing was hemorrhaging money. Stock prices plummeted. The joke on Wall Street: what does BOEING stand for? Bring on extra income now, God. First flight was February 9, 1969. Test pilot Jack Waddell reported the plane flew beautifully, like a fighter, just bigger. But the problems kept coming. The JT9D engines were so unreliable that early 747s often took off with 3, expecting one to fail. Wings flexed more than predicted, causing wing wobble that scared passengers. Then came the financial knockout. Pan Am, the launch customer, couldn't pay. Their first 747s sat undelivered as trips scrambled for financing. Boeing faced default. They'd built the plane, but their customer was broke. The 1970 crisis and pivot. Just as the 747 entered service in 1973, disasters struck simultaneously. First, the 1973 oil crisis. Fuel prices quadrupled overnight. The 747, which burned 20,000 liters per hour, became economically unviable. Airlines parked their shiny new jumbos in deserts. Second, the American supersonic program was canceled. The environmental movement killed the SST, but instead of helping the 747, this created a new problem. Without the SST threat, airlines questioned why they needed such big planes. Third, the 1974 recession. Air travel plummeted. Boeing laid off 60,000 workers, 2/3 of its workforce. The local joke: will the last person leaving Seattle turn out the lights? The 747 seemed finished. But then Boeing's engineers performed what might be aviation's greatest pivot. They realized the 747's secret weapon wasn't luxury, it was seat mile economics. While it burned more fuel than a 707, it burned less per passenger when full. The solution: fill every seat. Airlines reconfigured 747s from 350 luxury seats to 550 economy seats. The jumbo became the people mover. Cargo versions found massive demand as global trade exploded. The plane designed to carry passengers became the backbone of globalization, carrying everything from electronics to fresh flowers. The legacy and impact: the 747 didn't just survive, defined an era. For 37 years, it was the largest passenger aircraft in the world. It created mass tourism, making destinations like Hawaii, Australia, and Asia accessible to millions. It enabled the hub-and-spoke system, with airports like Dubai, Singapore, and Frankfurt built around its operations. Culturally, it became a global icon. It was Air Force One. It carried the space shuttle. It appeared in dozens of films. Its hump became synonymous with long-distance travel. Upper-deck lounges became the most exclusive real estate in the sky. Technologically, it pioneered systems still used today: advanced autopilots capable of automatic landings, triple redundant hydraulic systems, and the first true wide-body cabin that made flying feel less claustrophobic. But perhaps its greatest impact was psychological. The 747 made the world feel smaller. Families could reunite across oceans. Students could study abroad. Businesses could operate globally. It proved that scale, not speed, was the future of connectivity. The twilight in transition, the 747's decline, began with a simple equation: 2 engines are cheaper than 4. The Boeing 777 and Airbus A330 could fly almost as far with 20% better fuel efficiency. Then came the 2008 financial crisis, followed by the pandemic that gutted international travel. The last 747 rolled out of the Everett factory in January 2023, the same factory built specifically for it. The Queen of the Skies had reigned for 54 years. In that time, 1,574 were built, carrying an estimated 4 billion passengers, half of humanity. The 747 proved something fundamental. With enough engineering ingenuity, you can defy not just gravity, but economic predictions. It was born from desperation, survived near catastrophe, and ended up connecting our world in ways its creators never imagined. The Boeing 747 wasn't just a successful airplane, it was a lesson in vision, risk, and resilience. It taught us that sometimes the biggest gamble yields the greatest reward. That progress requires betting everything on an idea whose time has come, even when everyone says it's impossible. While the 747 conquered scale, another aircraft pursued a different dream: speed without compromise. Next time, we board Concorde, the supersonic gamble that captured the world's imagination, and the tragic flaw that ended it forever.